How's it going, everyone? Welcome to this video, which is going to be something a little bit different today because I'm going to be drawing from imagination using perspective. Now, I'm also going to be creating a series of tutorials where we will cover perspective drawing, and so before all of that, I thought that it would be a good idea for me to create almost like an example to show you what you can draw using the rules of perspective. So what I have for you today is a time lapse of a city that I had drawn using 1 point perspective, and so it starts off quite simple, but as we progress you can see that it becomes a bit more complex as I start to add people and vehicles into it. But I'll go ahead and play this and then I can narrate over it and talk a bit about the process behind it. So I'm not sure if any of you are already familiar with perspective drawing, but I did this using one vanishing point pretty much in the center of the horizon line. And I mean, you've probably seen a drawing in 1 point perspective before. A common one to see is like some kind of street view, and usually it looks fairly simple. This is exactly what I was doing here, except I decided to make this more complex by adding side streets and vehicles and people into the scene. As you can see, it starts off with some basic construction lines, all of which converge in towards that vanishing point, and I'll go more in depth with how this all works throughout the tutorials, but it's actually really simple once you understand it. I probably made a few mistakes in this though, with small inaccuracies that might not follow the perspective. I did happen to freehand some of this, so it might not be perfect, but using a ruler for all of these lines is a very slow process. Also, like I said earlier, I was building this up from imagination, and I didn't really have a plan for what I was drawing. I was just improvising and making it up as I went along. It was a completely different experience compared to drawing something directly from a reference. I did look at a few images of cars to see how I could draw them, but everything else was pretty much from memory. I think a lot of it came from being able to visualize images and things I've seen in the past. I was able to remember them and then draw things in. Also, it was quite frustrating sometimes because I'm so used to be able to create a realistic looking drawing and study a reference image. With this, however, I had to do what I can. I mean, it was hard for me to create the effects of shadow and light, so in the end I decided just to try and add a lot of detail and also render it as realistically as I could. This involves creating a lot of textures, such as the brickwork on the buildings, and this is where I think my experience with creating realistic drawings helped, because I was able to create a lot of textures and control the pencil in order to get different results. And the most challenging thing was probably to add the people, and there's a method you can use to place everyone in the image accurately, but drawing the people from different viewpoints and angles was quite challenging. And also the diminishing buildings as they went down the side of the buildings towards that vanishing point again. This was a first attempt, so I think it turned out pretty good, but I spent the majority of this time rendering it with pencil. It's nothing too realistic, but I really enjoyed putting this together, and also because of the fact that it was made up from scratch. It's almost like a scene from a comic book or something, and it's times like these where I wish I had some kind of drawing tablet to go ahead and paint it digitally. I do kind of like the thought of involving some kind of colour into my work. I mean, a lot of the time now with the content on this channel it's mainly pencil, and that's good, but it is nice to change it up sometimes as well. But perspective drawing is something I've wanted to explore further for a long time now, and I also feel like it's important for me to cover it on this channel because through the tutorials I'll be able to create a starting point, and it's also a fundamental you can apply to most of your work. Especially when it comes to architectural work, having an understanding of perspective is really useful. I do a lot of drawings of buildings and designs on this channel, and so displaying them in perspective is a great way to communicate ideas. So yeah, as you can see here, as I'm working further into this drawing, even though 1 point perspective is considered one of the simplest forms of perspective drawing, it can still produce some pretty good looking results. You can apply this to everything because there is always some form of perspective present in every drawing. So I hope you look forward to the tutorial series. I will be continuing the others covering realistic drawing and also the normal content like the vlogs and the architecture work as well, but this has been an example that I thought you might have found interesting. So there we go, there was a quick demonstration of how you can create a drawing using 1-point perspective, and considering 1-point perspective is probably the most basic form of perspective drawing because it comes before 2-point and 3-point and so on, you can still use it to create some pretty good looking drawings once you understand how it works. And so hopefully through these tutorials that I'm creating, we will start with the basics and work our way upwards to the more complex stuff. But I think that's pretty much everything from me today, so if you enjoyed this video then please give it a like because it really helps me out. Subscribe if you want to keep up to date with the content I'll be putting out and also them tutorials, and have yourself a great day. Thank you for watching, I'll see you in the next one.